Hello, welcome to the Outlast finale, second of two recap shows. You know, you're used to hearing Jen and I's recap and then immediately afterwards hearing from the players. And due to the occasion here of the finale, we've split these up into separate recordings. So this is the back to back, all of the final five. You'll be hearing from them one after another in this episode. And so hang tight because there's lots of great insight to come from the players. And we're going to start things off with a bang as I'm joined here on the call by none other than America's favorite Outlast participant, Sky. Welcome to the show, Sky. Thank you for joining.
What's up? What's up? Happy to be here, Alex. I'm thrilled.
Amazing. Yeah, stoked to have you on. I will start, of course, by offering my congratulations on a great,
Thank
entertaining
you.
game. I know that, yeah, you came in pretty cold to this whole thing and put together certainly one of the most compelling, entertaining, and skillful runs that anybody did on the show. So, kudos to you.
I so appreciate that. Yeah, I came in with very little Survivor knowledge. I had
Yeah.
watched a few episodes here and there when I was growing up, but never like a full season or anything. I don't even think I could name a player from a past season other than maybe Boston Rob
Hey,
because
there
I
you
know
go.
him for other game shows he's played on.
Yeah.
But my only frame of reference was Survivor from Surviving Barstool. That was the
Nice.
only frame of reference I had
There you go.
going into this game.
Despite what Cody would have others think. Um,
Now, okay, I have to clear something up real quick
do it.
because Cody will probably come after me if I don't. Although Cody was my arch nemesis
Yeah.
from at least early on, much love to Cody. I did put in a white lie like very early in the game. I like
Mm-hmm.
pulled Cody's aside and I was like, "Hey, I'm pretty good at this Survivor stuff. So if you want like to be allies, we can."
That's
I
hilarious.
only said that because I thought, man, this guy's applied to Survivor a bunch of times. He's probably really good. So I was just trying to play the game.
Amazing.
So I lied to him.
That's great.
But, it is what it is.
Very funny. Yeah. And it, blew up into a whole thing
Yes.
as the smallest things often do.
Yep.
I ask most people the same thing to start here, and I'll ask you the same thing. And
Yeah.
just what's your experience been like watching the show? Because you're out there, and when you're playing, your point of view is very narrow. You can only see what you can see, but then you
Mm-hmm.
watch the show and you see things from other people's perspectives. You see parts of the game that you didn't witness. What's kind of stuck out to you in the process of watching, as something that you either didn't know about that happened, or you got a renewed sense of somebody else's perspective? Yeah, anything like that?
Yeah, think the I think the biggest piece that like I didn't realize was just how much the thing is everyone kind of came at me early on in the season because I was playing the game and I guess, playing it very outwardly.
Sure.
I just thought I was playing it normal,
Sure.
only to realize that when I'm watching it, everyone else is also playing the game. They're just being more quiet.
Hmm.
So I think I wish I could have realized like how to subtly go about conversations. Like I think Sam does such a really great job of it,
Yeah.
and you can tell he's especially like I was just catching up on an episode, and I didn't realize how open he was to like
Hmm.
switching, who he really wanted to go to the end with. I thought he was for sure locked in. So I think just watching some of these episodes back, it's like crazy to see how open some people were that you thought were so closed off with their alliance.
Yeah.
Um, and as far as like watching myself, I am just, I, you know me now. I love to entertain. But also like I can't get over just how like my facial reactions. I'm like, whoa, I really was surprised. And I'm
Yeah.
giggling all the time,
Yeah.
which I think is because I'm so uncomfortable.
Sure. Sure. That's funny. Yeah, you say you wish you could have been more subtle, but Sky, knowing you as I do, I'm not sure that's in your playbook.
Yeah, it's not really in my toolbox, but it's a skill that some people have, and the people who had that skill to be really like nonchalant,
Yeah.
I think it took them far.
Yeah, and what you said about Sam too, I think is something that I also clocked and didn't realize when we were out there. Like, yeah, you already said this, but the way that he is able to like kind of nurture those relationships in a really
Mhm.
subtle but skillful way was one of the biggest boons to his game. One of the biggest reasons why he got to the end and won. And so, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
subtle thing that's hard to see, especially in person, unless you're the one, I guess, who's on the other end of that. So yeah, that was a thing that stuck out to me on the watch too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You talked about the early game. I want to go back to your early game as the player who is eliminated and then comes back in the game
Yes.
in very short order. It felt like you did learn something from your early elimination and course corrected pretty quickly. And I think you kind of already talked about this a little bit, but what did you learn from your experience of being voted out, and what takeaways did you have from that you like applied to the rest of the game? Because yeah, it did really feel like you were learning and making adjustments, and yeah, having basically a second chance is a pretty rare thing that not a lot of players get to benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm so thankful for that second chance that
Yeah.
I won back, but yeah, I think I was just so caught off guard that I got voted out first because I felt like my two thoughts were, okay, if you can be friendly and be likable, and then you can also maybe play kind of stupid, like you don't really know the game,
Hmm.
maybe people will just keep you around because you're a joy to hang out with and like you don't know what you're doing, so like you'll be an easy throwaway later
Sure,
on.
sure, yeah.
So that was my thought. And so then to get voted out first, because everyone was like, "Oh, she's playing really hard
Hmm.
and she knows this game." I was like, "No shit, this is not true. Like,
Right.
I do not know what's going on." So then I kind of, you try not to, but took it a little personal and was like, "Wow, like if they think I'm gonna play hard, they haven't even seen me play hard yet."
Yeah.
So that's why, having that last chance island, winning my way back into the game, and the whole little dramatic spiel I gave,
Right.
I was amped up. I was like,
Totally.
"You know what? If you wanna call me a player that's playing too hard, like, here you go. I'm gonna bring it now."
That's great. Yeah, I love it, and I think that I would uh, probably feel similarly. It's very like satisfying. It's thrilling personally to be like, you guys that just took one out on me, like to get your comeuppance in that way. It's exciting stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, I meant it when I said, "You guys are gonna be bored when I'm gone."
yeah,
I meant it,
yeah.
and that's why I'm glad I came back, and I'm sure people could say like, "Okay, yeah, maybe we were a little less bored with Sky around."
I think most people would agree with that. Um, yeah, you were learning the game of Outlast on the fly. Like I've said so many
Yeah.
times, like one of my favorite narratives of the season is the way that you're figuring it out on the fly, and you're making a real conscious effort to do so, and you're doing a good job of it. I'm interested because this is a perspective I don't get very often as
Mhm.
somebody who is a huge fan of Survivor, entrenched in the online communities, right? There's an understood sort of um oh, what's basically there's groupthink about like what is a good player? How do you play the game well? You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
interested in your perspective from somebody who learned on the fly, and did a good job of it. What is your assessment of like how to successfully play a game like Outlast? What makes a good player? How do you win or perform well in a game like Outlast?
That's such a hard question because obviously I didn't win, so I don't know
Sure.
what it takes.
But yeah, like
But
looking at
yeah, but
your
I know
your
what you
own
mean. Like,
strengths, that the
what kind
players
of
around you,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. And I think when I look back on it, I think someone's game that I wish I could have been more like, but I know deep down that's just not me because what you saw, I think what everybody saw on screen when it came to like the way I was playing, like that's also just kind of like how I am every day.
Yeah,
And I wasn't able to kind of separate like Sky outside the game and Sky in the game. I was just kind of like Sky the whole time.
sure.
But I think somebody who played a really smart game that appears that we're arguing a lot, but we're really not, is Abby.
Hmm.
Like, I think in a perfect world, Abby has such a strong game and seems like anybody can trust her. You know, the guys, the girls, she can be outspoken, but she could be super like quiet. And I think someone who's able to uh kind of just stay like that nonchalant, but
Hmm.
also be really confident when they need to be. Like I think that is super. That's how I wish I could. If I could play the game again, I would try to mimic how Abby played.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to hear more about that because, you're somebody who your relationship with Abby is like tenuous. You're kind of going back and forth at each other a little bit. And then
Hmm.
especially early on in the finale episode when she, has her moment where she kind of paints you and Elizabeth as the primary targets, like you're pretty quick, frankly, to say, all right, whatever. I need to get to the bottom of my vote. This isn't working on me. Um, and it maybe comes off a little harsh, but all that
Yeah.
to say, at the end of the day, you vote for her to win. And so obviously
Yeah.
there's no ill will there. I want to hear more about that. Yeah, like what led to you voting for Abby, beyond what you've already said, despite kind of being, yeah, like a primary antagonist to her game for the better part of the game.
Yeah. Well, I think what's hilarious is when I'm watching all these episodes back, and especially the one again, I just watched the one about a cockroach. She's a
Yeah, yeah.
cockroach. You know, sadly referring to myself. Um, I had no idea how quote unquote scared Elizabeth and Abby were of me
Yeah,
because I was so scared of Elizabeth
sure.
and kind of Abby. So when they kept referring they were so scared of me, I was just like shocked to watch that back and find it out. But I think the reason I respected Abby's game is because I also respected Elizabeth's game.
Yeah.
Like Elizabeth to me, the whole time we played was the strongest player. That's why I refer to her as Queen Elizabeth
Uh-huh.
because I
Yeah, I
truly
love that.
think she was the smartest player, and I think she um I think it's like she mentions it. I think it was her social game that didn't allow her to make it all the way to that final 3, and I think that's
Mhm.
where Abby's social game did come out a little bit stronger,
Yeah.
with just making relationships with people that weren't in her immediate alliance.
Yeah.
So, Abby's, she's smart, she's quick, she was able to make everyone feel like they weren't being left out
Mhm.
or that she was, out of the loop and that she was just gonna go with them.
Yeah.
So she's just really good at like catering to each different personality, which is a skill in itself.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. It's like Outlast and Survivor and games like it are like ultimately they're not chess. You can't just be a great tactician. You have to also be trusted and liked and respected, right? Like if it was just
Yeah.
chess, that wouldn't matter. It would be you could be an asshole and you could win, but you can't really be an
Yeah,
asshole and
absolutely.
win, you know?
Yeah, you
Like
bulldoze everybody over like me and Adam tried to do, which didn't work out. But I do wanna say, as far as, like, me and Abby and a little bit of Elizabeth too, like, there were so many times which it sucks because I think maybe I put my foot in my mouth very early on when we first swapped tribes
Mhm.
and Abby and Elizabeth came over to Orange. I really wanted to work with Abby and Elizabeth because I thought, okay, these are both two really smart girls. Like I could tell. And
Yeah.
I was like, in my head, as everyone, well, out loud too, as everyone saw in the first episode, I tried to form a women's
Yeah,
alliance.
uh-huh.
Supposedly, those aren't known to historically go well. So in my head, though, I was like, well, I think, that didn't work out with Orange, clearly.
Yeah.
So when Elizabeth and Abby came over to Orange, I was like, well, these are two new girls. I still would love to try to go to the end with some women.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be really cool. And so tried to do that, but then I believe it was Adam kind of, put in my ear that he could tell Liz was a strong player and
Mhm.
Adam was my number one ally and
Yeah.
he wanted to vote Liz and I supported him on if that's what we wanted to do, because that was where I had to leave my allegiance first. But that vote against Liz so early on is
Mm-hmm.
what caused Liz to hold it against me the whole game.
Yeah.
And you can see throughout the season, I tried really hard to earn her trust back by not voting for her or Abby.
Right.
Like, and then when it got later on down the road and it got towards the end, I was like, okay, at this point, like you two are Abby and Liz. I'm like, one of you guys is gonna have to go against the other,
Yep.
or another person's gonna have to break them up. And you can see in a couple episodes, I think it's when there's maybe like the last 7 or 8 of us, like Isaac and I start telling people like we gotta break up, like Liz and Abby.
Right.
Um, at that point, I think that's where one of them should have looked to me to be like, yeah, like I think that's where they should have either, outsiders in, we should have split them up.
Mm-hmm.
Or one of them should have said like, yeah, we got to like step to the side and go against each other, because I think that's, Liz will tell you, we've talked about it offline, is
Mm-hmm.
just, she's like, I wish I would have considered an alliance with you
Yeah.
before I got out. So
Yeah. I mean, I am really happy with how Outlast concluded. I think it
yeah, of
is,
course.
yeah. But man, like a reality where there's like a Skyforce plus Elizabeth and Abby like
Oh,
team up,
absolutely.
man, that could have been electric. It would
I
have been.
know. I was just like, just imagine me, Elizabeth, Abby at the end. Like, I know
Yeah.
everyone's saying like, Abby and Elizabeth had similar um storylines or, moves or whatever, and I had my own chaotic, mess. But I still think that those two are such smart women that I think they also just could have pitched themselves so well.
Yeah.
Alex, I have to say this. I did not, I've already told you this, but like I just want to make sure anybody who listens to this understands.
Yeah.
I did not realize there was like a final three that pitched
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that was a thing. That's how little Survivor knowledge I had. So at the point when there was like a final 6 or 7, I think it was 6 because Ty was just about to get out. I wasn't thinking, who do I want to be my final three? I was just thinking, like, don't get voted out. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't thinking ahead enough of like, who do I want sitting beside me?
Yeah.
Because I think I can like outpitch them. That never crossed my mind.
Yeah. How
Um,
did you imagine the game ends at that point?
I just thought
Like.
we kept playing games and voting. I don't know. I just thought I had to just find more idols.
Yeah. That's funny.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, I imagine there was a world when maybe it's like down to the final two
Mm-hmm.
that people like voted, but I didn't know pitching yourself was part of it.
Right.
And so yeah, it made it all interesting, because then of course when I'm like trying to pitch myself at camp to the other players of like why they shouldn't vote me out, I'm pitching to Liz like, hey, I'm like a really good competitor and like I can like help save you and stuff. And she's like,
Right.
Sky, that's not the reasons you want to pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not relevant,
And I
unfortunately.
appreciated her honesty. She was like,
Yes.
this is
Yeah.
not the right pitch you should be giving me. I'm like, thank you.
I
Okay.
love that. I love that.
So, but yeah,
That's
all
great.
fun with the girls. There's no bad blood. Just want to make sure that's out there. There's no
Awesome.
bad blood. Respect both of them so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other things here that you want to add about your experience that either didn't come through on the show or that you feel you need to clear up?
I think, I mean, the other things I would comment on are the fact, oh, my beloved Isaac.
Yeah.
My beloved Isaac, my gosh, that man lied to me so many
Yeah.
times and I
Yeah.
forgave him so many times. But at the end of the day, like Isaac was a great alliance, even though it didn't work out. I still had a lot of fun playing with him.
Yeah.
And then of course I have to give a shout out to my main squeeze, my main guy, Adam.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised one of your questions weren't about just me and Adam, because that was that was a lot.
I know. If we had all day, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I really enjoyed that. I think the only thing, is there anything that didn't get cleared up that I like have a question about? I mean, we had the two idols,
Yep.
which were fun. You had to explain to me how to use them a bunch of
For
times.
sure. For sure.
And yeah, no, I mean, if there's anything I wish could be redone. I just wish, or I wish Orange could have stayed strong.
Yeah.
I
I
was
mean,
committed. I
it
was.
was like you and Adam were really the only lasting alliance out of that group. It's like
Oh, absolutely.
everybody
Yeah.
else turned on each other or was broken up pretty quickly. So there's not a whole lot. It was just so fractured. Yeah, it was tough to put the pieces together
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
Yeah, but um Outlast was absolutely like one of the best experiences I've had. I told you like after we got done playing, I like genuinely felt like a little sad about it just because
Yeah,
I was like, I want to keep playing. Like that was so much fun and easily like top five coolest experiences of my life.
love it.
And I'm just really grateful that allowed me to play, even though I was like a last minute substitute. I'm so thankful that I did it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you were a part of it too. Yeah, it added so much to it, and yeah, it did definitely feel afterwards like kind of impossible to just go back to your day job, after after doing
That I
something like
didn't
that.
have.
Yeah, that's true. In your
That
case,
I
maybe you didn't have
my
one.
day job that I didn't have, but I quit. Yeah, I quit my job to do
Uh
Outlast.
huh. Uh huh. Yeah, you could just be a
Oh,
career LRG player.
yeah. Can you remind me? I know it's I the stat that you shared with the votes.
Yes, yes, it's
Because
in.
I think that's like the last thing I want to end on because I think that sums up probably my whole season
Yeah, you
just fine.
received 22 votes in the season, which would, if this was a real Survivor season, would have been the most that any one player received in a season in the 50 season history of the show, which is insane.
Uh, I I feel so loved.
Yeah, yeah. Just target number one for everyone.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, thank you. It was a blast.
Amazing. Yep. Thank you for joining here. We'll go ahead and wrap this portion up, and I think we're going in order. So next on the show, you'll be hearing from Queen Elizabeth herself.
Yes.
It'll be a perfect seamless transition, which is going to start right now. Okay, I'm now joined by Queen Elizabeth herself, as coined by Sky in this episode. Elizabeth, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about Outlast.
Absolutely. I'll start the same way that I start with most people, and I'm probably saying this precise phrase 5 times in this episode, but I'm interested in hearing from you and your experience watching the show, gaining maybe a different perspective on things than you had when you were out there. Was there anything that was particularly surprising or illuminating that you saw on the TV that was maybe different than you experienced it out there on the beach?
That's interesting. I don't know that there were a ton of things that were surprising per se. It was
Yeah,
really nice to see like everybody's thinking process and um I don't know. There weren't a ton of things that surprised me. I guess um maybe just way so because Sam was always an enigma to me throughout most of the game in terms
yeah,
of how much he was actually gaming versus not gaming, and it was interesting to see that there kind of was like a mix. Sometimes he seemed strategic, sometimes he seemed to kind of just going with emotion on what he wanted to do.
yeah,
But yeah, I think just that was maybe surprising was just seeing how he played and getting some insight into his thinking. I feel like because I was a little bit closer with Abby and so I had a good handle on where they were at.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was was there and you did just about everything you could do on Outlast, save, making it all the way to Final Tribal, but you had immunity wins, you had idols, you had, being swap screwed and getting through it. Like, what was your, I don't know, personal highlight coming out of this of like, any one moment or one play that you look back and it's like, yeah, that was really sick. That we did that, or, that I pulled that off.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it always comes back to that swap 222 vote.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, maybe I'd feel differently if I was Emily,
Yeah.
but I think for me, it was just really a cool moment to see a vote like that happen and be a part of it, and that it just was like so perfect that we all like misfired on each other.
Right.
And then seeing Sky, I guess that was one surprise, was Sky's voting confessional was really exciting to me in that
Mm-hmm.
round. And just seeing her put the pieces together, that's what I was hoping for. I kind of, in my head, was like, should I blurt out like what she should do when we were
Yeah.
going for the revote? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I think I just have to hope she'll figure this out. Um, but yeah, that was I think the best vote for sure. And then I think for me, like personally, the fact that I was able to like use my idol the best that I could, that
Mm-hmm.
was really like I'm very proud of that, and happy that it worked out the way it did because I don't have to have a lot of regrets about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was impressed that you hung on to it. I think Isaac was really particularly impressed. You hear that, like,
yeah,
the week that you do play it, like, he's wearing the mic and he's like, "That's crazy that you didn't play it last time." Like,
yeah, I love that. I love his commentary in that moment.
yeah. The dead man walking that, nobody knew was the case until Sam. Or I guess Sam was the only one who knew that he was, but
Well, I knew the vote was coming at Isaac as well, but
sure. Sure.
I don't know who else he told. But yeah, I once Sky played her idol, I knew it would be Isaac at that point. But
Interesting.
um,
Yeah.
since I knew I had my idol.
Yeah, that's like always, I think, one of the most returned to tribals. I know that we've speculated about it. I think I have with most of the players at that point of like, was there another way out for, Isaac in particular, and maybe Isaac and Sky as a group? And it always does kind of feel like most roads point back to somehow it being Isaac, which doesn't make sense until you really start to break it down. But I don't know. It's always like a one that people return to, I think.
Yeah, I think it's hard. Well, and that was, I guess that was a surprise, was my own confessional. I think I told you uh after that vote, because I felt like in the moment I was pretty certain I was gonna play the idol
Yeah.
before Sky plays hers. But then I do say in the confessional after that I was like thinking no, because I did feel really good with Ty.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that Sam told me he was throwing a vote on Isaac, I think I would have played it no matter what at that tribal, but it's hard to say. But yeah, it's interesting how it's like maybe it gives Isaac comfort. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
there weren't a lot of outs. It was probably always gonna be Isaac.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope
So
so.
yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about Final Tribal here. It's kind of my first question that I've got queued up. You said going in that you were planning to vote for Sam, and
Yeah.
that you were pretty set on that, which was surprising to me at the time, based on how closely you'd worked with Abby. But then ultimately you're swayed, and you do vote for Abby. I'm interested in why your initial plan was to vote for Sam over Abby, and then what ultimately caused you to change your mind there at Final Tribal.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think there's two components to why I initially said I would vote Sam. One was that I'd spent all of night two thinking Ty and Sam had fully flipped on me,
Mm,
and then also trying to think out like my biggest threats ahead of me, which I felt were Ty, Sky, and Sam. And so I think I'd spent a lot of time just thinking through if we got to this final four situation, what were my arguments against Sam?
yeah.
So it was that was just fresh in my mind. And I think the other thing was I felt that Dan had been out of the swap votes, which I think there's a lot of reasons for that and not necessarily on Dan's fault.
Uh-huh.
And then Abby, I felt that the Anna vote, I don't know if she talks about this at all. I think it came up in the round after, but she was honestly like panicked that whole round thinking it was her,
Yeah.
which she is justified in thinking that they would flip the vote on her. But like I remember right before tribal, she was like so convinced and trying to get me to maybe play my idol, and then she's like in tears. Like we pass each other during voting, and so I felt like to me those rounds, they were both not really, Dan and Abby weren't quite in on what was going on, whereas I
Interesting.
felt like Sam was always in the loop.
Yeah.
So I think that's where my thinking was. But then once we got to Final Tribal and Abby started talking, I was like, oh yeah. I mean, Abby and I have basically played the same game, but she did it without needing wins or immunity idols.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was justified that she should win.
Yeah. It's such like an interesting vote at, when it comes down to it, in that I think, like, we talked about, and I talk about in the first part of the recap, and we did in the finale too, like all the different ways you can slice this final tribal vote and like see who votes for who. But I think like, you know, you, Sam, or not Sam, you, Sky, and Adam vote for Abby. Like, you are obviously the of the people on the jury, the people who saw the most of her, right? Like,
Yeah,
and the others didn't see as much of her. And as somebody who does fly under the radar to some degree, like it makes sense that if they weren't close enough to see what she was doing, that they would value somebody else's game higher. And you know, I think Sam did plenty, obviously, to deserve it. He's a deserving winner. But the the things that people valued and their ability to see different people in different ways is, you know, always the thrilling part of a jury vote in
definitely.
Survivor or Outlast. And so, yeah, we got to kind of see it come to fruition here. You already,
Yeah.
yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry.
No,
I just want to, I've apologized to them privately, but I like to apologize publicly as well. I do feel I could have done better at advocating for Abby or Dan at the final tribal. So I think it was bad because not only do I tell the camera, but then I join the jury and they ask me like, "Oh, who do you think should win at this point?" And I do say Sam, and I really
mm-hmm.
have that. That's honestly one of the larger regrets I have is I wish I had advocated a little bit better. But I think I was just still kind of, it was the timing was very fast, so
Yeah,
I was still kind of trying to process everything.
totally.
So
And
yeah,
yeah, in this is related to that too. And you, and what you just said a minute ago, and that you had seen Sam as like a threat to win for a while. He was, you say it in confessionals, you just said it a minute ago, that he was like high up on your list in a way that I don't think others did have him, at least until the end. And that was ultimately like a mistake by some folks and underestimating his ability to win the game. You know, what about his profile, his game, you know, caused you to, it turns out, properly estimate him as like a big threat to win.
yeah. I mean, a big part of it is just his likability and
Yeah,
um, the fact. I mean, you see it that he's trying to be very transparent with everybody about where he's voting so then they feel a lot better about him going out of the game. I don't know, like some of that I think is he's just a nice guy and he felt bad, and some of
sure.
it is maybe jury management. That's still really a question
Yeah.
in my mind. And I felt like so Adam had said that he had played like a strategic game with Sam at one point when we were at swap.
Mm-hmm.
He told us that, and that kind of like always stuck in my mind. Like
Yep.
he acts like he's all just like going with the flow, but he obviously has interest in a strategic game and potentially has the ability. So um yeah, but mostly it was likability. Like I just
Yeah.
felt like he had been on the right side of the votes with all of green with us, and I felt like he'd worked with a lot of the people on jury, and he didn't quite have the stigma. I feel like maybe I had the stigma of like not being willing to work across
Mm,
the aisle, whereas
yeah.
he kind of, I don't know, it seemed like he had that vibe, even though he maybe didn't necessarily do that.
Yeah.
So, um,
He did
but yeah,
project. He projected an openness based on the conversations he was having, which I do think was an important part of sort of his story that he was pitching. And yeah, I remember
definitely.
that conversation with Adam too, and I was personally victimized by Sam in the game in reference. It was a bad time. It was like this slow play World War II like strategy game or whatever, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He said it was over multiple days or weeks or something.
yeah,
So,
yeah, it was like
yeah, that always just stuck in my head. I was like, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, okay,
So, but and honestly, like in my mind, I figured Sam would turn on me at some point. That's why, like, he never fully turns until near the end. And
mhm,
so, like in my mind, I was like, I'll just stay with Sam until I don't feel like I have him, and then I'll do something about it.
yeah,
And then, I mean, to his benefit, he always stayed loyal enough that I wasn't as worried about him as I was other people.
yeah.
So,
It seemed really likely that at 7, um, he would have if he had gotten the numbers, but you know,
oh yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Well, and that's what I thought. I thought that I had given him that idea because I talked to him ad nauseum about why he shouldn't throw a vote on Isaac because it made this split vote too likely. And so I feel that Ty was genuine, and it was when Sky tells him she's going to play the idol that he flips his vote.
Yeah.
And because my feeling was that Sam thought that Ty was going to vote for Sky, so he didn't need to vote for Sky, so that's why he throws the vote on Isaac.
Mm.
It was like it's going to be fine either way. But I don't know. Maybe he would say differently now. But
Yeah.
because as far as I know, he definitely didn't know I had an idol.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's one of the big things I want to ask him. I'm talking with him last, and yeah, I want to find out if he had gotten like a different, version of the plan where he would have put his vote there at 7. But we'll see.
Yeah, it seemed to me, yeah, well, it seemed like he didn't have Ty because he kept telling Isaac, like, if you get another person, then I'll flip. And
Yep.
he and Ty had been in lockstep for the most part. So if he had Ty, you think they would have just flipped. But I think Ty was also just wanting Sky out because they'd kind of been going for each other since the very first orange vote. So,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it'd be interesting to get Sam's thoughts.
I want to also ask, this is a thing that I know that we've talked about in the post game, and I'm sure you've talked with others about it too, but you'd been identified as a pretty big target from really like final 8 on, if not earlier. And still got all the way to 4, which obviously is commendable. Do you think there was any change you could have made to your lining up of targets or your end game that would have, allowed you to get one more shield in there at Final 4 to go up, in front of you that maybe would have set yourself up to survive to Final Tribal? Yeah, is there any way you would have think about that differently?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting because I had misremembered that Sam votes Abby at Final 5, so then I went
Yeah.
even after we had the finale viewing party, I was like, "Should I have just flipped my vote to Abby?" But I actually
Yeah.
don't know that that would help me. I think Sky and Sam potentially still just vote me out, or it becomes a tie. Maybe I can force a tie with Dan somehow on Sky or something, but
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think keeping Sky in the game was the best move for me to get through the Final 4 vote. But it's okay. Like, I think
Yeah.
honestly, like, my thinking was so I thought I might be dead on arrival because I've played I don't know that other people know, but I played your online versions of
Right.
this, and, I wasn't sure how many people from that would be at Outlast, and so
Mm-hmm.
I thought there's a high likelihood I just show up and they're like, "Well, we gotta get Elizabeth out right away."
Sure.
So I was grateful to just get through that, and I think, I kind of made a conscious choice not to not win immunities or something, it's kind of like, this is maybe my only opportunity to have this experience, so I'm
Yeah.
just gonna do it full out, and,
Full
I could
tilt.
have managed my yeah, full tilt boogie. I could have managed my threat level better, but I kind of just wanted to play the game
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I think but I do think, like, the final 5 vote for me is definitely one that I look back on that I think had I kept Sky in the game and maybe worked with Dan and Sky to get Sam, I don't know if it's possible. I think that was probably my best move, but I was really tied in. Sky kept pushing for an all-girls thing, and I knew
Yeah.
Abby wasn't gonna wanna work with Sky or me, and so I was just kind of, like, stuck, and I really felt like I didn't wanna throw out a Green's name because my hope was maybe that's really all I had to stand on at a Final 4 vote was, like, that I hadn't been throwing their names out,
Mm-hmm.
but I also think I was too afraid of Sky. I think I now looking back, maybe would have had a better chance against her at Final Tribal, but in the
Sure.
moment, she felt like the biggest, threat to me winning, so
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing I'm always interested in too, and I think I was told different things out there, or it would be conflicting, like of Sky's actual shot in front of a jury. Like, it's one of those things we'll never know. Like, her game was so compelling and flashy, but it was, she was flying blind through most of it, and it worked out, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
who
now
knows?
knowing at the finale party, she said she didn't realize there was a vote at 3,
Yeah,
like,
she
the jury vote, so I'm like, maybe I would have had a much better shot, but I don't know.
yeah,
So
she said the
but I
same thing
don't
to me in our exit interview, and I'm like, what did you think was gonna happen? Like,
I know. Yeah, it's pretty funny, but I also like that I'm kind of grateful that I didn't have to do a final tribal because that to me is always like in the one time I've made it to a final tribal in the online one, that's my weakest point, and
Mm,
after watching Abby, Dan, and Sam, I, like, wouldn't have necessarily wanted to go against any of them,
sure.
and, now I can just say, like, "Well, I would have won," so
Yeah, there
it's
you
kind of
go.
nice.
There you go. Last thing I want to ask about here is kind of, going way back to closer to the beginning of the game. Like, how did it felt like, and it was the perception of others at least, that you were the one primarily steering the ship when it came to the green decision making. Do you want to talk about it all, how that kind of came to be, whether it was like relationships that you built or, like ways that you gained influence? How did it come to pass that you were kind of the one that at least appeared to be the decision maker there?
It's interesting. It's like, something I've been thinking about, like, in my day-to-day life, because I don't really know what about me gives off the vibe of, like, decision maker and,
Sure.
like, in control person, but there's something there, and so, I guess it just, like, kind of exudes out of me, but I don't feel that it was, like, me dictating votes. Like, I do feel like it was kind of, it we were kind of coalescing on what we wanted. There weren't a lot of times where I had to really push hard,
Yeah.
um, for something, yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like, I do remember even in the first round, it kind of had been very clear that we had 6 people that were very actively talking to each other, and then
Mm-hmm.
Jake and Allie were a bit on the outs.
Yeah.
And I remember in my head thinking like, "Oh, well, it would be nice to just keep the gender majority," but I wasn't gonna push that very hard. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's like maybe just watching so much Survivor, I have the, like, knowledge of, like, don't, like, push and don't throw names out too hard, but,
Right.
like, make other people think it's their decisions, but then somehow people still thought it was me driving things, so I really don't know, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like,
Yeah.
I clicked with Dan and Abby right away, and for the most part, we were all on the same page a lot of the time. Like, I don't know that there was ever a time other than, so, like, the Anna vote, I really wanted it to be Anna over Sky.
Yeah.
I remember that, but I didn't really care. I was like, "If it's not me, that's preferred." So,
Sure.
yeah.
Um, Great. Anything else that we haven't touched on that you want to talk about here?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, I'm really grateful for the experience. I had a great time. The only, like, it has only made me realize how much I love this game.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that it could be that it would, like, the anxiety in the game would eat me alive or
Mm-hmm.
afterwards watching it, but it's just I've loved every part of it, and I'm so grateful that you and everybody else that helped make it happen did that. Um, it's, yeah, and now I have, like, a new group of friends to talk about
Yeah.
Survivor with,
Yeah.
and so it's really great.
That's great. Yeah. I love to hear it. And, I have to give you kudos for the game and, what you brought to it as well. I knew that as soon as we were doing this that you'd definitely be involved and didn't disappoint. So yeah, it's been one of my, the biggest joys of this for me too is coming away like with a renewed uh value on games like this, even Survivor, and the like relationships that came out of it. It's like half the cast I hadn't met before we did this, and now, yeah, we're buddies with them. So it's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, hopefully in season 2 will be just as great, so but
I
it's good
hope
to set
so.
things off on a good tone, and
Yeah,
everything, yeah, has been wonderful, so.
it's gonna be a tough act to follow, but we'll see. We'll see if they can do it.
Yeah, I think honestly too, one of the biggest things was how similar it was, like, it felt to Survivor, and I think, like, I posted this during the merge episode, like, it was so cool that we had 5 women, 5 men,
Yep.
5 original green, 5 original orange, 5 swap green, 5 swap orange. It was just like, this is crazy,
It.
like,
Yeah.
and the whole thing where orange doesn't go to tribal, and then, like, I remember sitting at camp telling them, like, sometimes this bodes really badly for tribes because they get antsy and then they do crazy stuff when they
Yeah.
first go to tribal, and then that's exactly what happened, and
Yeah.
it was just, like, the coolest thing to watch this stuff happen in front of me,
For
so.
sure. Yeah. And candidly, it's like one of my anxieties about doing this again is like, man, this worked out so well the first time. Like, can we replicate this or is it going to be disappointing in comparison? Like, you never know. And again, in the 50 season history of Survivor, there's just as many duds as there are like really standout seasons. So there's a chance that it happens, but I don't know. Maybe hopefully you trust in the
Yeah.
formula and uh, see what happens.
Yeah, I think it'll be a success. I mean, I'm maybe not the best judge because bad seasons of Survivor are still better than pretty much everything
Yeah.
else for me, but but I think you've got like now people have seen one season. I think they'll be excited to play it. I think
Yeah.
I hope it I think it'll be good. So
Yeah.
it's been great so far.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining the show. And for the listeners here, I will close this conversation out. And next, you'll hear from our third place finisher, Mr. Dan. Dan's coming up next. All right, I am joined now by the third place finisher in Outlast, Dan. Dan, congratulations on your strong finish and welcome to the show. Thanks for joining.
Uh, Thanks. Yeah, if you can call it that. Thanks, Alex.
I mean, I know it stinks to like not get votes here at the end, but truly, you did better than 13 other people out there. That's a pretty good result. So I do think you should be proud of, the placement you had here.
Thanks. Well, and I beat Isaac and Adam, so that's all I care about.
There you go.
And I have a question for you.
Please.
Did you ever explain to Isaac how Final Tribal works? Because I feel like he thought it was his turn to call out his move instead of like actually listening to the people that didn't get voted out and were actually sitting still in the game. So it was a little confusion. I
did my best to make sure everybody knew the format, and I do believe, as a Survivor fan, he was aware. But I get the thought.
I think it's asking too much of the guy who couldn't even figure out the 2-2-2 vote. So
I don't know, man.
Known.
Tough stuff all around.
I feel like they didn't give me a chance. Like, I get it. I just feel like going into Final Tribal, they all had their minds made up, and I just don't feel like I got a fair. I don't think I should have won the game. Like, I'm not that naive, but just a little bummed. I feel like nobody gave me a chance to actually give me an opportunity to explain my game. We're just kind of set on what they had their perceptions of.
Yeah, I get that. Like, I think we talked about it in the recap that, you haven't heard yet, but will eventually. It's like, I think from your spot, you unfortunately were drawing a little dead coming into Final Tribal there, right? And it's like, it's a lot of it is perception, I did make the point that I unfortunately think that your, second challenge antagonism of the Orange Tribe didn't really give you strong footing with half of the players. But yeah, I get it. Yeah. Like, I think that Final Tribal is a fairly small part of what a jury considers. And maybe they just weren't considering you too hard at that point, which, I understand the frustration there.
No, I get it. I know I was drawing dead, and I guess why waste their time listening to me when there's two bigger people to talk to. But so going back to that challenge too.
Yeah.
So after watching it back, would you say Ty pushed me out?
I didn't see a push. Like, I think that there's contact for sure. Okay. I wouldn't call it a push personally. I would call it contact, at least it's not what I was looking for, right? Like, if there was a clear, obvious, deliberate push, then that would have been one thing. But yeah, certainly contact, right?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And going back to that one, I mean, it's both sides. Like, that is what set to me. I know people don't like that I was just green strong, whatever, but from that challenge, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I hated him after that. Like, doing the whole, for one, the push. Oh, I didn't touch him. Okay, whatever. He had me gaslit so hard, I didn't even realize he actually did touch me until I watched it back. Like, he had me thinking like, wow, maybe he didn't touch me, and I just imagined it. And then whatever, Isaac throwing the thing, and then hooting and howling after, like they pulled off some grand masterpiece. Like, from that point on, I'm just like, we are gonna get all the orange out. I don't even care. And it was an all green Final Four, and that was a win to me. So
Totally.
I don't even care.
Yeah, I think you got my Player of the Week award in the first part of the finale episode when you guys vote out Sky. Like, and yeah, that was my reasoning. It's like, man, Dan's been dead set on like green all the way to the end for a long time, and here the mission is accomplished, right? Like,
Yeah,
other people are
that
talking
was my
about
mission.
Yeah.
Like even like you said, Sam and Abby. I mean, they both wanted to cut Elizabeth out earlier.
Right.
Only one who didn't want to,
Yeah.
and I mean, whose plan ended up winning out despite all that. I mean, I definitely kept us all together. That's not really a move, but I mean, I think I'm the biggest reason why Green stayed together, and I think that Orange did not like that.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's an argument there for sure. Yeah, that as the others are considering a move, your unwillingness to get on board with that definitely kept one of those things from happening earlier, and yeah, that was your prerogative, right? And so
yeah, and I kind of thought me and Abby were doing the Kyle and Camilla thing. It's like season was just after 48, so that's kind of fresh, and I kind of thought we had the Kyle and Camilla thing going, and it didn't really land too well. I mean, Kyle and Camilla had some moves to their names, so I guess that, and they weren't, sitting next to each other.
And I do think that, Abby did get some credit for that. I don't, you unfortunately didn't really share in the credit of that, but it seems like the reason that Elizabeth switched her vote from Sam to Abby, right, is Abby's talking about y'all's alliance in a way that Elizabeth didn't know about. So there was something there. Just maybe not to your to your credit explicitly.
No, not to me. I felt like me and Abby were the most powerful duo in the game, so I was just kind of bummed that we both got to Final 3, and I think I was more bummed that Abby lost Final than I was obviously I didn't expect to win, but I mean, I love Sam. I mean, everybody loves Sam, and that's part of why he won. And no disrespect to him, but it was, I'm bummed.
Yeah, it was safe to say that if in some way we ended up in a tie and you were the third finalist casting the deciding vote, that vote probably would have gone to Abby,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I've got a couple things I want to talk about here. Just like questions that I've had from watching back that were like parts of the season that we didn't really get your perspective on. One of them was I wanted to get your insight on your relationship with David from the early parts of the game, right? Because obviously him being blindsided there in that first post-swap vote sets the stage for a lot of your game to come, with, of course, you being left out of that vote, and then that kind of perception following you, and you took David's elimination really hard, right? And that you were on your vengeance, path against Anna for him, but we didn't really see a whole lot of your relationship going into that. I'm just interested in hearing you talk about that. Like, did y'all have a good connection pre-swap? Was it more like an alliance of necessity post-swap? Just interested in hearing about that from you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. So how my game started is I went to, and really quick, because I knew this game was going to move fast. So right off the jump, I knew I needed to make allies, and I just went almost immediately. I went straight up to David, Elizabeth, and Abby, like all one-on-one. And this was all like just finding little moments here or there when nobody was around, and just like, hey, do you want to be in an alliance with me? And they were in on it. And so I felt like it didn't show a lot of me with any of them, but it's like anytime I would get off and get a one-on-one, any of those three people, I felt like all three of them were my number ones. And then of course we get split. And then out of those three number ones I had, I'm with David.
Right.
And then he immediately gets blindsided. And now all of a sudden I'm from having, three number ones on my tribe and feeling like I'm at the dead center kind of. And I felt like I was running green and with help, but
right.
It's definitely running green before the swap. So then it's like I get swapped with him, and then he gets, chopped, and then I felt like my game also died there with him too. As part of, I wanted vengeance for David, but also myself, because I knew like that was the point where the game switched for me from being in the driver's seat to now all of a sudden my back's on the wall and I'm just struggling to survive at that point, and that it all flipped. So that factors into why I really took it personally.
Sure. Yeah, that like swapped phase I think was so impactful. Like again, talked about it in the first part of the recap, but like every vote there, it's David and Cody on your end, it's Anna and Emily on the other side. Like all of those had such big implications, and all of them were kind of unexpected or required a move, right? And so I think it's no surprise that like phase of the game kind of looms large in the end game. But unfortunately for you, you were maybe of all the players had the most unfortunate time in that swapped phase, when the David vote and then you sneak by with the Cody vote. Obviously that one was fine, but yeah, it's just it's an important, it ended up being a really impactful part of the game, I think, which isn't always the case.
Yeah, and I'm disappointed because I feel like I played. I mean, on paper, it didn't come out well. I was left out of both of those votes, but felt like I played
you survived,
it well,
right? And that's not nothing.
Yeah, because at that point too, it was 8 orange and 6 green left.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, I felt like, and we had the advantage. I felt like it only made sense, Then we're gonna give them an 8-5 orange, and then we give orange the option to steamroll us.
Yeah.
So I felt like, and pushed Cody. At first, I wanted to work with Cody, and then I'm like, hey, it's okay. So I kind of teased him out to see if he was willing to cut bait with one of his orange, and he was set. He was like, come on, you're down 4-3 in the numbers, and then you want to sit here and not like seem like you're open. Right. So and then I felt like I had to push it on him, and of course now it makes sense why he wasn't open, because there was already planned. I didn't read, but I was probably because, like he said, it was going to be Sam next. So I went from, I pushed his name out one vote, and then I went back and I repaired that relationship to the point where even though I just pushed for him, he was going to keep me over Sam.
Yeah.
I felt like I did well getting back in that spot, then it's all for nothing. And I just spent my time repairing that relationship with Cody, and then now he's gone. So I'm like double drawn dead now. I lost Cody and David, the only 2 people I talked to at the swap.
That's a good point, and one that I didn't think about is how, you put that effort into working with Cody, and then he gets blindsided, which, keeps you in the game, but it also, like you just said, takes out another person you were investing heavily in. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, it's a bummer because, I mean, it's like, it was going to be Sam right there. Like, I felt like I played it right to get on the side just to get to the merge. Yeah. And then, I felt like it was going to be Sam. Then, Ty came along and saved him. I mean, good on Sam, because he spread I was too focused on Cody, and I didn't, pay attention to everyone else.
Yeah. I have no reason to disbelieve you. Like in the episode, it's unclear whether it would be you or Sam. They intentionally were going to split votes and force a tie, and then on the revote it would be you or Sam if they didn't vote out, if Cody wasn't blindsided, right? And I believe you when you say that it would have been Sam. I have no reason to disagree with that. But
and that's what Cody said. But I was so scrambled on that vote too, because I thought Sam had the idol, because. Right. So we found something at camp, me and David did, and it said somebody on green has found the idol, which we know is Elizabeth. And I said to David, I'm like,
wait,
I think it has to be Sam.
Time out. You found a thing that says somebody on green has an idol?
Is this brand new news? There was something it was never shown, but so there was something. It said the green idol has been found. I think because
whoever told you that is lying, because there was never that was never put in the game. There was never a note that we put in the game saying someone on green has an idol.
No, it was saying that the idol at our beach was found. I just figured you guys were tired of us, getting covered in ticks for no reason.
Nobody from production put that out there.
Well, I would love to hear, because me and David found that. That is crazy. So there was
a clue that mentions the word green, because the idol was the green block, is like some riddle that included the word green in it, and that may have been a clue to the idol that was found. But yeah, so I can guarantee you that we didn't put in anything that says the idol's been found. That wouldn't have come from us. So somebody,
Well, that's hilarious.
yeah, somebody either misinterpreted or lied about about that piece.
That's funny. I would love to talk to David about that because that had me thinking that Sam had the idol because and I figured if Elizabeth or Abby had it, they would have told me, which obviously Elizabeth didn't. I thought we were a little tighter than we were. But so then I'm thinking Sam has the idol. So then they're talking about splitting it. I'm like, no, we cannot split the vote. I'm very frustrated. I'm like, we cannot split this vote because I just figured Sam had the idol. And it really set me stir crazy because I was like, well, I'm totally screwed now.
That's funny. Yeah. I want to get to the bottom of that too. That's really interesting because, again, 100% that wasn't a thing that we put out there. So I just had a couple other things I wanted to ask you about. I want to ask about the vote where Ty's eliminated because you vote for Sky on that one. And I find it hard to believe that you didn't necessarily see the writing on the wall. Was that like a conscious, I don't know, like jury management thing, or were you under the impression that the votes were for Sky that round? Because I know that you had a thing going with Ty that you probably wanted to keep going if possible.
Yeah, I wanted to keep Ty. I think that was one of those where whenever we were talking about the names, Ty was around and I was told Sky.
Yeah.
And then I went to confessional, and then when I came back from confessional, the whole idol thing was going on where we're just like running around crazy. So it was like the last I heard was that it was going to be Sky. And I mean, plus I had the cockroach thing lined up, so I had to, use that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The cockroach voting booth confessional, I think, wins for the best voting booth confessional this season. So
yeah, thanks. Well, and what's funny is in typical fashion, I actually got the cockroach from Sky. I got to give her credit. I said she was like the cat that had 9 lives, and then she was like, "Ha, we're like a cockroach." It's like,
that's funny.
Okay, that was good. I got to use that. So
that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she coined the term herself.
Yeah.
I also want to ask, I'm just interested in hearing your perspective of, because you're one of 3 people who can say that they played the whole game. You were out there the entire time, in the game the whole time. I just want to hear, talk about the experience of getting to see Outlast, from beginning to end. What was the impact on you, mentally, physically, emotionally? What does the, what was the experience like even then, as you're sitting at Final Tribal realizing, okay, here I am at the end of the game. Just interested in hearing kind of that perspective from you.
The number one thing is it was so fun. Like one of the most fun things I've ever done. Like I was having a blast. And and that's a big reason why I didn't want to make a move because I knew if I played it how I did, I would get to the end and I would just get the full, I wanted the full experience. Totally. And I wanted to get to the end and have all that. So, and I did. And it was so fun. And it's it's just crazy because you never, no matter what someone's telling you, you never know if they're telling the truth. And you just have it's like you're building these relationships, but they're kind of built on sand, but you have to trust people and you want to, but even when they are, you're like, okay, well, what's their ulterior motive? But it's fun. And then when you get somebody that you just really trust, it makes the game so much. It's like a crutch in the game that makes it's so nice to play, but it was just a blast. And it's the mental torture. I wasn't sleeping at night. Players do it for a month because brain is just going crazy.
Yeah.
And even months later, it's crazy, Alex. It's stuck. It's like I still think about it almost every day, almost feels like almost all day, I'm just replaying everything in my mind. And I mean, maybe it's the way it ended for me. I feel like I've got to defend myself and how I played, so that factor into it. But I think a lot of players, it's the same. I don't know what it was, but it just, every moment is just ingrained in your brain, and just because it's so fast, you don't have time to process everything because it's moving so quick. And then now it's like, okay, months later, you finally have the time to actually play through and digest everything in your head.
Totally.
Kind of analyze a little more what went down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would also, if I ever played something like this, would struggle with that, the speed of it, in that I'm somebody who's pretty like planned and calculated, and having to kind of like make decisions on the fly over and over again without the space to really like, I don't know, sit down and weigh the options or to plan, would take a toll on me for sure. And so, yeah, I think and also I'm somebody, I lose like a game of softball or, volleyball or something, and I'm, have a hard time sleeping that night either, because I'm thinking, all right, what if I would have, hit the ball? What if I would have gone backside my second at bat instead of trying to pull one? You know what I mean? Like, so,
Yeah.
I resonate with that, and I think I would probably be the same way.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I know. Especially you think of all the things you could have done. Like, and me specifically, I felt like at 8 was my chance where I really could have flipped things around and tried to. I think if I would have sat at the end with Isaac and Adam, I think I could have won. And at 8, I could have made that shift, but I would have had to cut off all my allies.
Right.
And then I think if I did that, and then I'm sitting at the end as the only green.
Yeah.
With that, but it's like there's no time to think. Like,
Yeah.
It's this move, and you get this one chance, and then you have to try to guess all the way. It's like, okay, if I do this, am I going to get all the way to the end if I go that route? And
Right.
I just got so locked on like me, Ab, Smith going to the end together. It was like there was no time to think. So I was like, I don't have the mental space to think of another route. So we were just going to take this train to its final destination.
Yeah. And again, I don't think it was a wrong decision by any means. Like, it got you there. And yeah, you got out the biggest targets in Elizabeth and Sky on the way. So, from there, it's just it's a jury read. It's a perception thing. And, just happened to go against you this time.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts just about your experience watching the show back? Any moments that really popped for you that were like really cool to see on TV that maybe you weren't expecting? Because sometimes you're out there and it's like, yeah, this happened, and then you see it on TV and it's like, whoa, that was crazy. I didn't realize that was such a big deal.
Nothing off the top of my head, really.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, well, thank you for joining. Again, appreciate you being involved. I brought a lot to the cast and to the show, and yeah, really grateful that you were a part of it. And yeah, thanks again for chatting here today.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. It was a blast.
You got it. Okay, I'm gonna close this one out, and then I think we'll go in order here. So next, you'll hear from Abby. Okay, I'm now joined by the next in our long run of players. I'm joined by Abby. Abby, thanks for joining. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Longtime listener, first time caller. Happy to be here.
Yeah, there you go. We've talked to everybody but you and Sam by now. Again, just want to start like I have with most people in congratulating you on your Outlast run. Obviously, an excellent game that came as close as you can get to winning without doing so. So yeah, great job all around. And I, let me personally apologize for not having confessionals of you from the first 4 or 5 episodes.
I'm glad we got to talk about the hard-hitting questions because that was my first one.
That's
thanks. Yeah,
wondering.
What a game. So fun. And I was like, I don't know if anybody else that's listening to this was tracking along to the number of confessionals, but I think I just tied people like near episode 10 or 11 with people that went out episode 1 and 2. So
I think you make up for it.
I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Make up for it on finale night, I think. But I truly have no explanation. It's not like you were giving bad confession. I think we either lost footage or you were just, so good at staying under the radar there early on that we just kind of like, we're like, yeah, she's fine.
Yeah, I was like
we
so
don't need
under
to
the
talk to
radar
her.
that the producers didn't even know I was like around. I was like just
Right.
hiding anytime there was a vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fun.
Let me ask you, similar to what I ask most people here, in watching the show back, you're perspective is broadened than what you saw out there. You're seeing things from different people's perspectives and from a wider lens. Is there anything in watching the show that really surprised you, either as something you didn't know happened or, getting something that happened from a different person's perspective that was kind of changed the way you saw something, anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard a couple people mention this, but just trying and just seeing what was going on the other side of camp, that was always just fascinating because you
Yeah.
hear once we got to merge or once we, did the um, new tribe swap, what was going on, but to see it happen in real time was interesting too, just to pick apart like why things played out the way that they did.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my more fun realizations was watching Cody's game
Yeah.
because he was such the villain on the swapped orange tribe
Mm-hmm.
that it was like funny to see him basically be the villain because everybody trusted him and wanted to work with him.
Right.
And so like that was like a funny thing because in my mind I was like, he's gunning for me, he's gunning for everybody,
Right.
and then you watch it back and you realize like, oh, it's just the nature of the game
Right.
and how things go.
Yeah.
So, you kind of rewrite certain stories in your head about what was happening
Uh-huh.
on the other tribe when you weren't there.
Yeah. Yeah, he got everyone to trust him and then did enough betraying immediately that caused
Yes.
everybody's, alarms to go
Right.
off. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, one of the things here, I've got a few questions I wanted to talk about that I've been curious about, but of course we can go off script too. I'm interested
Sure.
in hearing about the merge vote from your perspective, because it sounded like, so this is the Hannah vote, right? Like, it sounded like
Sure.
maybe you weren't super on board with that based on what you were saying and what we got, and that you really wanted to get Adam or Sky, but ended up acquiescing and going with the vote. And I think Hannah made a really compelling pitch to you that we see in the show where she's like, yeah, talking about making herself available as an ally. Was that ever a thing that you were, I don't know, considering pushing against, or is it something where you just let people have their way? I'm just interested in your perspective on that round.
Yeah, that was an interesting one, getting everyone back together. We had just escaped our 222 vote
Yeah.
unscathed. The villain of Cody was slain. And so we're
Right.
kind of in this new reality, right? Where we're getting all together. Things are pretty shaken up. People have gone from top to bottom, from king to out to,
Mhm.
all this different stuff. And so now we're just trying to regroup. And I think like coming off of the 222 vote, it was very clear to me that Adam and Sky were not to be trusted
Sure.
because, I mean, just that they had convincingly told me that where they were going to vote and didn't vote that way. So I was like, okay, great. That's not a stable relationship there.
Yeah.
And so I think like it felt obvious to me that, they needed to be some sort of target at some point. But then as we get into this new merge environment, there's kind of the okay, how do you regroup with old allies? I think that was like the
Yeah.
regrouping with Dan, and how do you move forward with your like half allegiances and stuff. So I think like
Yep.
I did I did obviously think top of mind Skyforce, who couldn't. They're so
Right.
compelling.
Right.
But also like, Hannah was just, kneecapped in a way by
Mhm.
getting Cody out. And so that is compelling to say, like, okay, she might really need an ally. She won't have a lot of friends here on this beach.
Yeah.
And that's a good pitch. I think what made it like what made it the right decision was it was something everyone could agree on.
Yep.
And so you could get further with not rocking the boat in that scenario. You don't have to, make people mad at you,
Yeah.
draw any new allegiances. And so that felt awesome. But also, even in the pitch that she makes, it's very compelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anytime you had a conversation with somebody where you go, wow, that was very, that
Yeah.
was very, convincing. That's not a great thing to think about for their threat level,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I
Yeah.
think in that way, it's like, okay, that was too convincing.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like everything's a double-edged sword. It's like she makes a really strong pitch to save herself, and because of the way that the game works, that could equally be a reason to keep her around, or it could be the reason to get rid of her. It's like, look at what she's capable of. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that's good.
Totally.
So, I also want to ask, there's a few episodes in a row here. It seems like from final, I don't know, 7 or 8 all the way to 5, where we get
Yeah.
different versions of confessionals from you and Sam, both saying like, I think I need to separate myself from this green group before we get close to the end. And, ultimately it never comes together. And I would even argue, in fact, that it's probably better for both of you that it didn't. Or at least the way it worked out for both of you ended up being pretty good. But that being said, one thing
Yeah.
I kept thinking about in that is it felt like you and Sam were on the same sort of page, but for whatever reason, you just never connected on it. Is that something that you felt watching it back too? Do you think that if you and Sam had maybe had an honest conversation with each other and both clocked that, like, oh, we're both thinking the same thing about making a move against, like, Elizabeth specifically here, do you think that's something that could have come together at an earlier point, or was that always going to be something that ended up being kicked down the road?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think from the very beginning, I just couldn't figure out Sam at all. And
Yeah,
so there was no, like, I couldn't understand how to engage with that. So I
sure.
basically didn't. Like, it was like felt like I was Dan and Elizabeth, and like Sam was there, I think maybe talking more to Elizabeth in that way. So because I was like, I don't know what I can say and what I can't say. I
Yeah,
think because I saw a few things that in my mind didn't make sense of like, okay, he offered to go out early on, like a
right.
couple of times. So I'm like, is that real? Is that fake? I
Mm-hmm.
think it's like yes and yes.
Right,
And
right.
then also like he did have relationships in ways that I was like, I don't know if this is like I don't know how to handle this level of
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Like I knew he hadn't wanted to put Sky's name down and
Yeah,
things like that, where I was like, I actually don't know what your motivations are.
sure.
I don't know what if we're going for the same thing. And I don't know if I asked you about it if I would get the answer or I'd get a straightforward answer. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think in a lot of ways, I try to create stability for myself in the game. And I
Yeah,
saw Sam as like, I don't know. Like, I
yeah.
can't figure him out.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I think he did a good job. Again, the level of intentionality is something that only he can tell us. But yeah, kept people on their toes and from
Totally.
from feeling confident and comfortable in what he was doing, kind of until the last
Totally.
minute when he read you your rights and then voted you out. And yeah, proved to be effective.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in that way, it was like hard to know uh, what was actually going on and what the motivations were
Yeah,
and how to like use that to your own advantage is always like you know, a tough thing. I think like what's the title of this most recent one? Like
yeah. It's like
mind game, like
reverse
oh, reverse
psychology.
psychology
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
beautiful thing. It's
yeah.
like you truly don't know what people are thinking at any given moment. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to play a game based off of what someone's thinking and you can't figure them out, it's like it's super infuriating
Sure.
and hard to do.
Yeah. I want to talk about Final Tribal here.
Mm,
And I think, we've talked about our kind of like assessments or takeaways from things. It felt like going in, the 2 votes that you didn't get that you maybe had the best chance to get in my opinion, would have been Hannah and Isaac. Hannah because she was obviously a free agent, and Isaac because he worked with you in the swapped group and also seemed to be making his decision on the fly. It felt like maybe the other votes that went for Sam would have been hard to pry away. Yeah, interested in if you agree with that assessment and if there was anything that you wish you like handled or answered differently with those two that maybe could have won you another vote or two.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think your assessment is exactly how I see it. Like I actually talked to Ty afterwards, and it's so funny because just in Survivor in general, everyone gets to choose what they think is the best survivor for whatever reason. And Ty's like, I would always want the challenge beast to win, like
Yeah.
regardless of anything. And so he was like, Sam won the most challenges. And I was like, fair.
Yep.
That's so fair.
Yep.
And so I was like, yeah, no hope. Anna, no hope.
Right.
Yeah, there's no way. And I do think that, yeah, Isaac and Hannah were more on the fence. I think like obviously hindsight is 2020. And I think what I didn't realize is that you need to articulate parts of your game that you think are obvious, which is like we're looking at stats, I was on the right side of the vote the most of anybody in the final three. That's also I don't think I would have been able to like calculate that in my brain and to be like, who said what and who voted what. I would not have been able to do that. But when, Hannah said that the answer that really clinched it for her was Sam was like, yeah, you, and you. And I'm like, wait,
yeah.
Other than Isaac, which to me felt like a random vote, not a strategic vote to get out Isaac. I was like, other than Isaac, yeah, me too. Like that was like that was the thing where I was like, oh, I thought that was clear that was that me. I when I heard it, I was like, that's not a great answer because duh. But it is, and I think that's something that I go, oh, that, who's to say if that would have made a difference.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I remember sitting there thinking like, well, duh, I mean, we could all say that because we're all green. We've all been voting the same way. We've been a pack. So how is that any different than what anyone else could say? And it does, you are pitching yourself at the end when there's this jury that's seeing you at tribal, and that's it. And that's I think, like a takeaway, just explaining your games, even when it feels obvious.
Yeah. I think that's a great analysis of that and something I hadn't thought about, but I think you're right that as maybe it's part of the nature of a fast game like Outlast where things are moving so quickly and players are seeing such a small part of it once they hit the jury that they need to be told, what exactly you're bringing to the table. And maybe you're so close to it that you forget that or you assume that it's assumed. But I think that's a really good way of putting it. Like if you had, said the same sort of thing or undercut Sam's, argument there, then maybe it would have had an effect that, would have been more impactful than you had considered. Because I get that as well, thinking like, oh, of course they're like tracking what's going on, but maybe they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think in that way, it's like a great answer that I just didn't recognize at the time was to just say like, hey, you're sitting there because I voted you there.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, yeah, that's why they're so mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so tough, like, because it's so nuanced. You're right. Like Sam could be saying that sort of thing, and because of the way that it comes off from Sam, it's taken well, and somebody else could say the same thing, and it could be taken like as arrogance or as bitter, and it's the social part of it. Yeah.
And I also think you can't we can never know, right? Like everything's in everyone's own brain.
Yeah.
But I think like post hoc rationalization of that type of thing could just also mean that like Sam is more likable. I mean, he was so wonderful and great and played a good game.
Yeah.
And it's like you could just say you didn't want to give it to me, and that could be your whole reason. And that's okay. Because that's part of it. That's all part of the game.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to ask you about, just because you kind of have a stand-in sort of moment that I guess shows this thing that we've heard from several people in the finale here, with
Yeah.
the sort of mental and emotional toll of the game and its compounding effect is one of the biggest things that I was surprised by, you know, of like, you hear this stuff from people who play Survivor, but we're doing a silly amateur version over a weekend. But, you know, so many people came back at the end of it just like totally not just gassed, but like kind of reeling, you know, like, or,
Yes.
you know, having to work through stuff or like reckon with things about themselves. I'm interested in hearing your perspective on this, as, you know, obviously you kind of hit your limit as far as deception goes late in the game here. Yeah, I just want to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you talked about it, and everyone that has felt it. I think it's like the how real it was. Like to say, you know, a silly weekend game. It's like, yeah, but also it felt so real that it's like hard to explain to people because you're like,
Yep.
yeah, I did this like random survivor like style game. It's getting posted on YouTube. And also I had to talk about it in therapy for like multiple weeks. Like,
Right.
in what way does that sound normal in
Yeah.
any sense of the word? And so it does. It's funny how emotionally real it was. Of I think because at the end of the day, we've all been an awkward preteen that hasn't been chosen for something.
Right. Right.
And that the first, like, it feels like that, like, especially the first couple of votes. And that
Mhm.
just feels awful. Like you're somehow singling somebody out because of no good reason. And
Yeah.
that sucks. And so that just starts it off awful. And then you're also feeling this like burden of like, I don't want it to be me. And also have to lie to these people's faces. And you see people genuinely get upset.
Right.
And I think people that have any, you know, semblance of empathy
Yeah.
don't like to feel like they're the cause of someone else's
Uh-huh.
like disappointment or sadness or anger.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you see the culmination of that. I was like, I was truly like shaking since day one. Like
Mhm.
it just like it was just a lot of, you know, adrenaline and nerves and since kind of starting the experience, I didn't realize how much of an emotional toll it would take.
Yeah.
And I think like, you know, even that outburst there at when we're in final five, like I knew that I needed to somehow go back to the jury and say, like, this isn't like if Elizabeth wins this next immunity, like it had to be before this. Like if she wins this next immunity, I need them to know that I was articulating this and thinking this before
Yeah.
she was the only option.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the only time to do it. And then I got like so caught up in how emotional it was, even just to talk about the deception,
Sure.
because I didn't realize how much it was just like weighing on me
Yeah.
until saying, oh my God, it just sucks to
Mhm.
try to work behind this person's back who I think is wonderful and is playing a good game. And I'm sad that what I'm doing might cause them to lose this
Yeah,
game,
for
but
sure.
also I want to win this game.
Yep.
And, you know, I don't know how anyone would be able to like just turn off that emotional part of themselves.
Yeah.
Because I could never.
Yeah. Yeah, would have to be a little bit of kind of like a sociopath, I think, to to be able to
Yeah.
fully do that.
Yeah. And I keep thinking, like, I feel like I've told this to so many people of like, I was a fucking wreck
Yeah.
and I was sleeping inside on an air mattress and I had food. Like,
Uh-huh.
can you imagine
Yeah.
like sleeping outside for weeks on end and not eating? I'm like,
Totally.
that was me at my peak.
Mhm.
And it was so emotionally hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy the degree to which, yeah, people are saying that sort of thing about Outlast. 'Cause, yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
did not expect it for all these reasons that you brought up too, but yeah, something about, if anything, it just proves to me how like inspired the format of the show is. Like they
Mm,
really cooked, you know, 25 years ago when
they
they
did.
put this together. And it is pretty,
But
you know, like
also, you
devious.
really cooked. Like,
Oh,
I
thank you.
think that also that has to be said is that it felt emotionally real because there was so much effort and care that put
Sure.
into putting this game together, and you I feel like you captured the spirit of the game and made it serious in a way that, like, it could just have been this silly little thing we did on the weekend,
Yeah.
but it really was, like, it felt very thoughtful and a good experience.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
did. I have seen, not to, put anyone on
Mhm.
blast, but like other games like this, there exists plenty of them. And about like 2/3 of them I see, the host is just kind of like, all right, I guess we'll read the votes. First vote is this person. And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, if you're going to do it, like
Come
go all
on.
the way. Like,
Add some spice.
right. I don't
Yeah, that's so
understand why
funny.
you would take it like to the 1 yard line and then just kind of mail in the
Phone it in.
presentation there, but whatever.
No. My mom has said that she's like, "He's done such a good job."
Well,
Like,
thanks.
he's like captured it. He's captured the essence, so he really did a good job.
Thank you. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about here that we didn't get to?
Ah, man, probably, but I just wanna say that, I mean, such a good experience. I think, like, hindsight is 2020, but I'm proud of the game that I played. I was surprised at myself at not being able to hold it together and win some immunity challenges. But also I was like, I think that was something where um it's such a it's such a unique experience that I have so much more grace for all Survivor players ever, because I feel like on the couch like, this is for $1 million. Like,
Yeah.
please just, balance on that beam a little bit longer.
Right,
Mind
right.
over matter. And I was
Yeah.
like, I can't do it. I
Yeah.
can't even possibly
Yeah.
do that.
I
So
totally feel the same way. It's like sometimes I'm like, oh, if I was out there, I would find a way. And it's like, no, sometimes your body
yeah,
just
I
won't
would
let
have
you do it.
dug deep.
Yeah,
I would have
exactly.
but nope, not at all. My gosh. So
Cool.
it was great. I'm like sad that this experience is ending in its entirety, but I'm excited to be a viewer of Outlast season 2.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, well, you'll pass the torch here before too long.
Incredible.
To a whole new set. So cool. Well, thanks again for joining. We've got one more interview coming up with the winner of Outlast, Mr. Sam himself, and you'll hear from him very shortly. Okay, and now last but not least, of course, last but perhaps most is Sam, who is now joining the call. Sam, the winner of Outlast, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining.
A pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Congratulations on the win, first of all. I think that it's, been interesting hearing from different folks about what they did and didn't see, in your game, and all of that kind of wrapped into, a winning package here. I'm interested, off the rip here. Did you have much of a sense going into Final Tribal about what your chances were? Did you, were you surprised by the votes or, anything like that?
I thought we were pretty even. I thought there was a bit of a bonus with those immunity challenges.
Yeah.
So I was a little confident. I was like, I'm right in this. I definitely didn't think I didn't deserve to be there.
Yeah.
And obviously getting rid of Elizabeth in the vote before absolutely increased the odds.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm one thing I talked to Abby about when we chatted earlier, that I'm interested in your take on too is, you see for like several votes in a row there that both you and Abby are saying similar things to Confessional, but not to each other. In that it's like, I think we've got to get out Elizabeth before we get much further. But for whatever reason, you never seem to like get on the same page about that. Is that something that you had an idea of in the moment, or was that kind of a revelation to you here watching the show too, that she was also, maybe a few rounds earlier willing to make a move in the same way you were?
I think there's multiple facets going on there. So there's a little
Yeah.
bit of ignorance is bliss, and just watching people that weren't you get talked about to be eliminated.
Yeah.
And then there was biding time, and I was pretty disappointed with how I'd gone in the immunity challenges up until probably the seventh or sixth one.
Yeah.
I think I just lost out because I didn't know what I was spelling.
Sure.
And
Sure.
then I think I won the one after, and then missed out on the puzzle, and then won the one after that. So I was like, well, I mean, I'm along for this ride, and then I'm like, I think I can snag one here and convince everyone else it's time for Elizabeth to go. And obviously we cut it fine, but got there in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to dispute, many moves or lack of moves on your end, because ultimately what you did worked out perfectly. Like, you couldn't have had a better result. So
Yeah, there is absolutely some parts that during the game that I was like, if I hadn't won, I would definitely look back on and be like, this was a moment I
sure.
could have gone cutthroat or something. But there's no reason for me to do that, because if I'd changed what I did, it could have resulted in me not winning the game.
Exactly. Yeah. What were some of those moments off the top of your head, where, like, when you're watching back, like you said, that struck you as, oh, this may have been a missed opportunity if things worked out differently?
Well, I nailed Isaac, and while that one went down with me getting him out,
Uh-huh.
I do think back on that. I'm like, well, if I'd lost that count to Abby at the end, imagine if I'd thrown her name on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
So that's the standout one that I thought about a couple of times.
Uh-huh.
We talked about Elizabeth once with Ty and probably Isaac as well before he went.
Right.
And I didn't budge. I stayed green, stayed loyal.
Yeah.
And I feel like if Elizabeth had made it to the final three, then that'd be the other one that springs out.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that final 7 vote where you put the vote on Isaac. I think one thing I was like tracking in the edit that I'm interested in your perspective on is, you tell Isaac in that round, if you can get the votes, like if you get 3, I'll be your 4th to vote for Elizabeth, right? And ultimately, he does get 3 in him, Sky, and Ty, but it sounds like he never circles back to you, or when he does, he's putting his trust in the plan of, like, Sky's going to play her idol and we're just going to idle out Elizabeth. So all that to say, what I'm interested in is if Isaac had come to you, before Tribal and shared that same information with you, right? Like, I've got 3, we're voting for Elizabeth, you can be the 4th. Is that something that you would have done, or would you have still, put your vote on Isaac or Sky or something else?
I think if I knew, and hindsight's great, but
Yeah.
I think if I knew that it was going to get her out, then it would have been a very juicy target.
Yeah.
But I think there was plenty of scent of idols in play, which is why I went alone on that vote anyway, just in case. So, but in a perfect world, I mean, it would have been a shame for her to leave midway through the way she'd played, but this is the talking point, because she was probably the most skilled strategic player in the game.
Yeah.
She made it all the way to the penultimate vote and then got rolled.
Mm-hmm.
So if she does go out early, obviously that's better for everyone else involved, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah.
Or probably me.
Yeah, who knows? And, it made again, you can't dispute too much of what you did because it worked out great. It may have taken a shield out from you at 4. Maybe, you are a target of a vote that she was a target of down the line. I don't know. But that's always one that I've been interested on, because it feels like one of the few moments where that group on Orange, like Sky and Isaac in particular, actually maybe had the votes to finally break up, Dan Sky, or Dan Elizabeth, and Abby. Yep. And just for whatever reason, the plan didn't coalesce.
Yeah, there's a couple of chats where if we were able to circle back and other people said the same in other votes.
Mm-hmm.
that rush decision maybe doesn't quite get to iron out exactly what everyone's doing, which is kind of fun because it leads to chaos.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have ruled out the entire game flipping if that had happened, because I think Ty and Isaac were pretty tight as well. So I think we had a scenario where if we'd fractured up the green team, it could have easily been 3 orange at the end instead.
Yeah. Kind of crazy to imagine, such a vastly different
one little change.
Exactly. Yeah. Butterfly effect of it.
Yep.
Okay, you talk about this a little bit at the little reunion finale thing, but I'm interested in hearing it from you now, a few months later. Talk about your very early game where you kind of half volunteer to receive votes. It seems like you walk it back. You parlay that into the maybe I'm drawing votes for an idle play. All in all, it ended up being really effective, but I'm interested in hearing from you, like, how much of that was premeditated, how much was kind of figuring it out on the fly and then realizing, oh shit, this is like working, we'll keep going with this. Yeah, I'm just interested in hearing about some of those early green votes from your perspective.
Yeah, fair enough. That was an absolute roller coaster, and
Yeah.
to be blunt, I think I just came in way too unprepared mentally.
Sure.
I was all casual and like, this will be fun. And then I got there, and on the first challenge, I picked up the wrong color when I was running with Adam. And so that popped me behind him in the run back. And obviously that challenge went over super fast. So a couple of seconds felt like it made a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I've messed up big time here. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that huge a mistake.
Right.
But at the time,
feels like
that's
it
all we had to go with.
Yeah.
So I was like, damn, well, okay. And then we went to tribal, and we sent home, a team member. So, and to go straight back, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is not a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, geez, I don't know, guys. I mean, I'm like, oh, all these people going home that care deeply about Survivor, and I'm like, I don't know, am I contributing to a point that I need this, or should I just get out of the way?
Sure.
And then we had a pretty honest conversation back at the Green Camp, and Elizabeth and Abby at that point, probably Dan as well, but they were like, I think I'd like to keep you around.
Yeah.
And then about halfway through that conversation, I was like, all right. And then we sent Ali on her way.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I'm getting how this game works. I'm putting myself out there. People want to keep me around at least for a short period.
Yeah.
I can roll with that. And then it became a lot more fun.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, I'm into it now. I can see how this works. Work together. We vote out someone.
Yeah.
Let's not go immediately back, but
right.
I'm into the game now.
That's like totally how it read to me too. That like, I mean, knowing you as I do, you're, such a kind and generous guy that it probably started, as like, oh, I'll fall on my sword here. But by getting, then the backing of your group, it felt like it gave you permission to like play for yourself now, right? Like knowing that you're not taking away from somebody else. You're not, an affront to somebody else playing the game. And yeah, it almost felt like that was the moment where you're like, all right, I'm here to play now. And that switch was kind of flipped for you.
Yep. That's pretty much spot on. I was like, okay, well, I haven't messed up that badly. There's people see value in keeping me.
Yeah.
That's given me a little bit of confidence. Let's play the game a bit. And then I can use this now to move forward, at least in the medium term.
Mm-hmm.
And then just enjoy myself and start performing.
Yeah.
So that rolled nicely.
One of the other like earlier season things that really impressed me was your handling of the David vote after the swap, and that we see the impact that it has on Dan, your tribe mate and ally member at that point, and that it kind of sends him reeling. But from your perspective, you see what's happening, and you even like approach Cody and say, "Hey, I see what's happening. I'm not going to stop you from doing it, but I'm also not going to go along with it so I can keep Dan, close to me." Yeah, I'm interested in if you have anything to add in that round, because I think that was one that really showed your like savviness in the social politics of it, of being able to kind of play both sides here. And I do think set you up in a good way for the next phase of the game.
Yeah, I mean, again, to win, you need a bit of luck, and a lot of the vote after that, the Cody vote, was capitalizing on an opportunity, so that was great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Ty. But there was there was some spiciness that came out of that, so I'd love to see what Dan had to say in his final chat with you. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, when you know it's going, there's not much you can do about it. You can't blow up the game. At least I was involved in the conversation. So being involved in the conversation is something that, I don't know, as a stretch, maybe that's because I was involved in the conversation, how I was able to switch with Ty to get out Cody on the next one.
Yeah. It shows like your openness to being involved, and that you're not like rock solid in a certain alliance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought even we were pretty solid because you could see how it went with the green four at the end. But
Right.
at the same time, I always wanted to listen. If there was something juicy, I wanted to hear it out.
Yeah.
And like you said, there was a couple of times when my head did get turned a little bit.
Yeah.
It just wasn't enough to fall into place to pull off anything crazy. And as it turns out, it's probably in my best interest that we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I think it is something that kind of differentiated you from those other green players, and that other players did feel like you were an option to them. Where I don't know if the other Dan, Elizabeth, or Abby really were considered by anybody else as somebody who was ever going to flip, right? And having those potential options open at least helped perception wise, even if nothing else.
Yep.
Last couple things here. I know you've got to run before too long. I'm interested, going back to Final Tribal, did you go in expecting votes from any particular jury members? And did any of ultimately the way that people voted surprise you, right? Like, were you surprised to receive someone's vote, or surprised to not receive a particular person's vote?
Yeah, that's fair. I was like, one was Hannah's last question was a beauty, and I
Yep.
was like, if I can nail this, I think I can swing that vote.
Yep.
And so I thought I'd go hard at, I put you in that seat.
Yep.
Who knows whether that's going to backfire or not, but in this case, she was looking for punchiness, and that must have been enough. So that was a good one. I was a little surprised I got Isaac's.
Okay.
So that's a credit to him,
Sure.
to vote for the guy that gave him one vote for the entire game and
Right.
sent him home.
Right.
So, yeah. Elizabeth was line ball. I felt like I probably was a little unlucky to miss out on her, but
Yeah.
obviously she's a purist. So if my game style was a little erratic, then she goes for Abby. I mean, I got no problem with that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the interesting thing about Elizabeth was how she was going into Final Tribal thinking that she would vote for you, and that she did flip it, which I think is the only person who flipped in that direction, knowing that Hannah obviously made her decision in your case there. So, yeah, who knows? I think it was a common factor between the players that did vote for you, that they were ones that like were victimized by you, for lack of a better term, maybe with Anna as the exception, but like, yeah. And I think it's the same for Abby too. Like, Sky and Adam and Elizabeth see a whole lot of Abby and vote for her. And in Sam and Sky's case are like kind of directly antagonistic towards her. And, a thing that I was happy to see in Final Tribal voting is that it seemed like people voted with their brain and their heart, and not with like their emotion or vitriol. So That was good.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think that was cool. The fact that I kind of worked ish with Sky. Well, it was probably
Uh-huh.
too late in the game to do anything properly, and didn't receive her vote. And to be honest, me and Adam didn't have a lot of contact during the game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fair enough. If his game is destroyed by Abby,
Yeah.
then he votes that way. That makes sense.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to touch on, and maybe not even a question here, but additional kudos for the fire making challenge. I think we talked about this at finale night, but I think that was such a crucial moment in your game, in that it gave you that momentum going into the end game, to kind of stand on, your game and be confident going into it instead of kind of having to play defense and let you play offense. And, I've said a few times too, I think that fire making challenge was the most, it felt to me like we were on Survivor the whole weekend. It felt so authentic and cool. And so, yeah, well done on pulling that out too.
Thank you very much. I mean, you're right. It felt massive
Yeah.
because that mindset change, and I think we touched on it probably off camera, but we went for like my mindset that you talked about. Once I'd won that challenge, I was in the final three. So
Yeah.
straight away, my prepping goes where the other three cannot.
Mm-hmm.
So whether I capitalized on that well, I don't know. I mean, I
I'd
did
say you
enough,
did. You
and
won
it
the
was
game.
tight.
So,
Yeah. But yeah, no, I liked having it there. And what is the phrase that I really should remember, seeing as it also cost me a challenge? Fire is life. Your fire is
yeah,
life.
something like that. Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that was cool. I'm glad you guys put that one together, and it was a really fun one to win for sure.
Awesome. Anything else that you've got, any part of your game that we haven't really talked about you want to touch on, or anything else you want to talk about here?
I think that the David one kind of took myself by surprise watching it back, because
Yeah.
I don't know whether you black out stuff or you have different memory.
Uh-huh.
But that was probably the one part of the game where it kind of irked me as a person, because I'm like, oh, that really doesn't look that great. That's not the honest, trustworthy, nice Sam kind of all the way through.
Sure.
I can see the house of cards falling, and I'm just going to sit back and watch.
Yeah.
But we're playing a game,
You're
I guess.
right.
So there wasn't a whole lot I could do about it, and so be it, I guess. But I do feel bad. He's a great guy.
He is.
So,
Yeah. And I do think you
Poor
played it
David.
like as well as you could have, like to come out on the other end of that and being able to, keep an alliance with Dan while also getting that other group to realize that you're not going to blow up their spot. It was a really good play, I think.
Cheers for that.
Cool. Well, if you've got nothing else, we can close it out there.
Perfect. Well,
Perfect.
thank you to you, Jen, and Amy, and the entire crew.
Yeah, of
Casey,
course.
for building the stuff. That was awesome, and it's a huge thing to experience as an adult, to go through something like that. It's
Yeah.
a real mental challenge more than it was a physical one.
No
So
doubt.
it was awesome, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations again. Thanks so much for being a part of it, and thanks for hopping in here.
You're welcome. Take care, man.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
All right, well, that's that. You've just heard from Sam, the winner of Outlast, and all the rest of the final five. If you're still here nearly 2 hours in, thank you so much for listening and for your investment in Outlast. This is going to be our sign-off here from Season 1. This is going to be the last bit of content that hits the feeds from Outlast Season 1, but as you probably know by now, we are doing another season. The link to submit your interest is in the description of this, and I just want to say, again, if you're listening, you're a true Outlast diehard. Thank you so much for the support. If you're somebody who's listening and you didn't play the game, I'm particularly impressed, and you should, comment on here and say, I listened to the end, and I'm not one of the 16 players of Outlast, because you're Outlast's #1 fan. So thanks so much. Again, thank you for listening, and you'll hear from us again in the coming year with Outlast Season 2. Again, for the last time, the link to that interest form is in the description. thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.